Hello everyone, my name is Richa Mahajan, Assistant Professor from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Jagannath University, Jaipur. Today, my topic is Let's Go to Work. Landscapes. What are landscape? What is landscape photography? Now that we have covered the basics of camera operations, light and composition, let's go to work and try to apply what we have learned. We will start with landscapes, which are generally easy to shoot because they tend to stand still. Basic landscapes, whether in a rural setting, the wilderness, or a city, are extremely popular subjects for photographers. With no people in the scene you are photographing, you are limited only by the light and your imagination. You can be as artistic as you like. Of course, our goal is to go beyond the obvious. So, in this lecture, we will also look at some unusual landscapes and learn how to introduce animate elements to a scene. Next is tips for photographing landscape. Get to the site early, far ahead of the prime light you hope to be shooting in and explore. Find the place, find the best place to set up and the best possible angles before the light is where you need it to be. If it's a sunny day and you are planning an evening shoot, try to visualize where the shadows will be and what the scene will look like just after sunset. Use a tripod for photographing landscape. In addition to allowing you to shoot with a slower shutter and a high aperture, getting everything track sharp with a nice depth of field, a tripod also forces you to slow down and really think about how will you frame things. It allows you to concentrate on whether the scene in your viewfinder matters enough to be worth a photograph. If you are shooting landscapes, there are really only two times each day when the light will sink: before sunrise and around or just after sunset. Unusual landscapes. An image of a road sign shows how can you use something that would otherwise be cluttered in photograph to tell an interesting story. The sky behind the sign looks threatening. Next is a photo of a dog wearing a surgery collar offers a good example of the horizon, an open space to isolate and animate subject in a landscape. In an open cluttered landscape shot in Montana, the dust kicked up by a truck tells us what we are moving. Interestingly, the dust gives us a leading line from the back of the scene forward. It also makes the antlers of the deep pop out and read easily. The time to work out a shoot of something that happens quickly is not right when it's taking place. In the case of a firework photo, shooting from the audience would have prevented the use of a long lens and turned the trees into visual clutter. In this frame, though, the trees are minimized and serve to give the fireworks a context. Next is composition and landscapes. The compositional idea we have discussed, applying the rule of thirds, experimenting with the horizon, and looking for natural framing devices are all important with landscapes. You may want to use wide angles, angle lens, and a bit of height to show the land on a grand scale. If you are low to the ground, the viewer sometimes loses the sense of where he or she is when looking at the photograph. An inexpensive way to get an aerial shot is simply to go up a ladder or climb onto a roof. Long lenses can narrow your field of view on the world, but they are also compressed distance, making the background look as if it is goes on forever. Next is layering and light in landscapes. Add layering to landscapes by thinking about the foreground and middle ground, the middle ground, the background, and the repeating patterns. A photo taken framed by a muddy windshield shows a man and his horse, hay bales, snow, a building, mountains, and clouds. Even this is a landscape because it tells us where we are. Next is using a wide angle lens and getting down low sometimes helps with layering because it allows plants, geological features, and other elements of your image to stand out. Again, getting down low accentuates the foreground subject, but lowering the camera also means seeing less landscape most of the time. Think about adding life, complexity, and movement to your landscapes to go beyond the obvious. Another trick to add drama to landscape pictures on a clear, dry day is to point your camera in the opposite direction of the sunset. Everything in that direction will be awash in beautiful red reflected light. Remember too that bad weather makes for great light and unusual photos. There is no excuse for bad light in landscape shoot. Remember, the landscape is not going anywhere. Return to it in the early morning or in the evening when you know the light will be good. Next is the real bonus of shooting before sunrise or after sunset is that few others do it. When the sun is just below the horizon, there are no harsh shadows. You can shoot in almost any direction you want. Introducing animate elements. It is difficult to shoot a good landscape that has nothing else going on the scene. Even a small subject gives the viewer something to look at. Think of a great landscape as a starting point, a stage on which you hope players will appear. A big, epic landscape can be beautiful, of course, but actors in the form of a rainbow, people, animals, or even patrons in the land can enliven what might otherwise be a very quiet scene. You do not need to go on an exotic location to shoot great landscapes, and you should not limit your definition of landscape to empty scenes. Challenge your idea of a landscape by adding animate elements. Keep in mind too that you don't have to shoot landscapes in the countryside. It is certainly possible to shoot urban landscapes. To build any landscape, country, or city, think about the point you want to get across. Start with an anchor of some kind, such as building or even a fruit stand. Scout the scene, making note of leading lines and interesting light sources. When you are ready to shoot, get close and look for opportunities to tell a story. Always keep your camera with you and never put off a good shot. Take your time picking your scene and focus on the something that you can shoot rapidly. That's all for today. Thank you so much.